Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you've been watching my recent videos, you'll know that we've been diving into a whole bunch of tools that have recently come out that focus on generating consistent characters from only one or two images. We've looked at ByteDance's Infinite U, Tencent's Instant Character, and I was going to do a comparison of those with IPAdapter. However, before I could get around to doing that, ByteDance released another model called DreamO, which takes the identity transfer capabilities of Infinite U and adds on additional IPAdapter-like features, including style transfer as well as object transfer. So today, we're going to test out DreamO. I'm going to show you guys how to use it on Kaiju Gen, my own image generation platform, RunPod, where you can host and spin up your own GPU, as well as ComfyUI, along with a few pointers on running it on your own local machine. As usual, we'll try and cover everything. And if you have any questions, please leave them down in the comment section below, or even better, come and join us over on Discord, where I tend to respond a little bit faster and better to questions. And you've also got the rest of the community there to help you out. So with that, let's dive right in. So as usual, we're going to showcase the model initially here on Kaiju Gen. This is my own image generation platform, where you have access to a whole range of image and video models. If you come down here to image, you can see all of the image models that we've got here, including Flux, Hydrian, Google's VO, and I will be adding the new Pixverse and Chroma models that have just come out that are supposed to be really, really good. We've also got a bunch of video models over here, including WAN, Kling, Runway, Minimax, and many more. And one of the really cool things that you can do on this platform is if you have generated an image with an image model that you like, you can just go ahead and grab the URL over here, pick the video model that you like, and then over here, when you set your starting image, just drop in the URL and it will reference that image. The models are relatively uncensored, so as long as you're sensible about what you're doing, there shouldn't be any problems with what you generate. However, let's dive into DreamO. So to grab DreamO, just click on image and then scroll down until you find DreamO. And that will give us here two image options, image reference 1 and image reference 2. We can also click on this button over here to open up all of the advanced parameters. I will go through them, however, we won't really be messing with too many of them today. Now, to keep things consistent with my previous videos, we are going to reuse the same character we had last time. This is the AI-generated character that I've been using in the last couple of consistent character videos, so we'll continue to use her and then do a comparison in my next video of how all of these different tools perform. So we're going to go ahead and set her as the reference image over here. And since we're using her so much, we should probably give her a name. So if you've got ideas or suggestions for any names that we can give this character, please do let me know, as I'll probably try and reuse her in other videos. So some of the things that DreamO can do beyond just transferring a character into new images is it can actually take two image inputs. And those two images could be a character and another character, and you put them together to put both characters in a single image, something that was actually not that easy to do with IPAdapter and required a lot of steps in manipulating and fixing things to make it work in that way. You can make one image a character reference and another one an object to see if we can apply the object like an outfit to the character in the first image, or we can use it for style transfer. So we're going to look at all of those options today on Kaiju Gen. So now that I've set my character and my style reference, we need to tell DreamO what each image is. And we can do that down here. So if you see here, we've got reference task 1 and reference task 2. I will flip these around by the time this video comes out. And in reference task 1, this refers to whatever we've set in image 1. Based on the documentation, you could theoretically use both ID and IP, as ID has to do with the face identity and IP is object or character, which I imagine would encompass that as well. Regardless, we're going to try them both out. So we're going to grab ID, and for reference task 2, we're going to grab style, as we have this anime style as the reference image. Now, one of the really important things that we need to do for DreamO, particularly when using a style image, is we need to add in this prompt. Generate a sane style image. A woman standing in the woods. And let's go ahead and click generate. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to leave all of the other parameters the same, including the negative prompt, guidance, and so on. So if you go ahead and click generate, once the generation starts successfully, you'll get this, and then a placeholder will appear over here. Now, this isn't a very commonly used model, so I do have it on a cold GPU setup. So the first time you use it, it may take about a minute for the GPU to spin up and give you back your image. However, if you're planning to use it quite a bit more. After the first image, it should be a lot faster in giving you back an image. And there we have. Now, if we have a quick look at the image and the source materials, there's a couple of things to take in mind. However, before we do that, I am going to try one more thing. So we tried to do the style transfer with the source image set up as ID. We're going to try it now as IP and see what we get back. Now, if we have a quick look at the results, I would say that the style transfer did a half-decent job. Looking at the positives, the identity transfer was phenomenal. I can definitely see a lot of the facial features from our source character brought over to the final image. That I can definitely consider that this image is derivative of this one in terms of the identity preservation. However, in terms of the style transfer, I'd say the model falls a little bit short. We're going to try one more style a little bit later, but this anime style did not pass through very well. There are certain elements of it. If you look closely, the lines and some of the color aspects do look a little bit more drawn or painted, but overall, not a great result, at least in terms of style transfer. However, this was a much more subtle style transfer. This is a bit of a more realistic anime looking style with a character that looks already like the character that we brought in. So we're going to try something a little bit more drastic in just a moment. I just want to see how setting IP as the reference image translates to a style transfer. Okay. And we can see here that even with IP, we didn't get a great result with style transfer. However, character transfer, identity transfer is still absolutely phenomenal. So what happens if we try a more drastic style? So I grabbed this from the Disney Wiki, and let's see if with something a little bit more dramatic, we can get a more aggressive style transfer. I'm also going to add in here cartoon, and let's add into the negative prompt realistic and see if by doing that we can get a better quality style transfer. Okay, so we got back at the image, and while I'm not sure I would consider it a complete style transfer, if we have a look at the reference image over here, there is definitely some massive difference in the style of the image overall. So don't use style transfer expecting a direct style transfer, but you might generate something new and interesting. What's especially cool is, once again, that character identity transfer is still there. This is still very much that reference character that we put in, just in a completely different style. Further experimentation will be required to see what you can get with the style transfer. I believe by also playing with res, resolution for non-ID reference image, meaning the image that is not an ID, to give it a little bit more weight, as well as playing with the CFG and the CFG start and end steps could give you different results. So we've tried to do style transfer, which has given us mixed results. But what about putting two characters in the same frame? Well, if we keep our initial reference image over here as our blonde lady, let's grab somebody else as our secondary image. If we scroll through my library of images, let's see if we can find a different enough character that we can set as a reference. Here we go. Let's grab this redhead over here. Come on down, set that as the URL. And we can see here that the image has been set. Let's open up the advanced parameters and set both of them to ID. And then for the prompting, let's first try something like two women sitting at a coffee shop. I don't expect this to give me a great result. However, it's important to test out a vague prompt like this to see what the results are like. And then what we'll do after is what we've done before in previous videos for Flux and SDXL is we'll have to describe each character separately. However, let's see what something like this gives us out. So here we're going to test out the other prompt as well, where we describe both of the women separately, and we'll compare that with the previous image. And then what we're also going to do is we're now going to test out the IP feature a little bit better. So if we come over here and set our reference task image to IP and change our image out to this Lego mug over here, I want to see if we're able to transfer the object and the person and put them together in the same image. So we're going to test it out with holding a mug, and we'll add in a more detailed prompt as well to see if that helps drive the image better. Okay, and we can see here that it actually did a really good job with that simple prompt. Let's have a look at our character references. If we have a look here at the final image and grab our two reference IDs, we can see that there's definitely a strong resemblance between the reference images and the characters outputted in the final image. The redhead has a lot of the same facial features. I can see that the mouth shape looks about right. The eye colors look about right. The forehead framing, it all looks very, very familiar. And the same thing goes for our character over here on the right. We've got the same mouth shade, eyes, brow, and so there are a few subtle differences, and these images were both made with variant versions of Flux. I believe DreamO is using Flux Schnell, which is why we see a slight degradation in quality. But I'm going to show you guys later how you can use the GRadio and actually have it run with Flux Dev. So overall, we didn't have to prop the two characters separately, and it was able to pick up the idea of both of them, and it understood that when we said two women, that each woman should be a different ID. And we can see that once again reflected here with the more detailed prompt, a blonde woman sitting next to a redhead woman in a coffee shop. It's a little harder to tell here. And in fact, I think by describing them in greater detail, the redhead actually looks a little bit less like the reference character. The blonde looks good, but the redhead actually looked better when it was just two women sitting in a coffee shop. Now, let's have a look at that object to person image. And this is really cool. This is really powerful. If we look here, that Lego head cup, almost perfectly transferred. Well, it has perfectly transferred that Lego head cup and our character to create this image of her holding the mug. This presents so many opportunities for product style shots. And I will see if I can get the version of DreamO onto Kaiju Gen with Flux Dev. However, for now, I've only been able to achieve that with GRadio, which I'm going to show you guys I will install in just a moment. But that is DreamO on Kaiju Gen. Please do check it out because it's my own platform. Anything that you spend on there does contribute towards the channel and creating these videos. And if you have any problems or issues running Kaiju Gen or any of the models, please do hit me up on Discord. I tend to respond very quickly and deal with any issues within 24 to 48 hours. So what about using DreamO on GRadio? Well, you need at least 40 to 48 gigabytes of VRAM to make this work. So typically you're going to be using this on a cloud system. However, if you do have a GPU that is powerful enough to run it, I will have a automatic installer script over on Patreon. However, if you want to do everything manually, all you need to do is head on over to the ByteDance DreamO GitHub, which is over here. Click on code, copy that over here, open up your terminal, type it, go to the folder where you want to install this, type in git clone, drop that URL, press enter. Then you're going to create a virtual environment, and then you're going to just do pip install -r requirements.txt, and that will install it for you. Once you're done with that, just do python app.py. Incredibly easy. So if you don't have a GPU with 40 to 48 gigabytes, what are your options? Well, one of the favorite options that I like to recommend is to use RunPod. RunPod allows you to rent out for just a couple of dollars an hour a whole range of powerful GPUs, including consumer grade ones like the 3090, 4090, and 5090. But you can also rent things like the A40, the L40, or even A100s with 80 gigs of VRAM. For today, we're going to be trying out the A40 with 48 gigs of VRAM. Now, once you're here and you've used my link down below, you'll see that the template is set up here. Before you deploy on demand, click over here, edit template, open up the public environment variables, and you need to set a Hugging Face API token. To do that, head on over to Hugging Face, come up here to your little user profile, click on access tokens, and then either create a new token or reset one of your existing ones. I'm going to do that right here. You can click copy to grab the API key, come over here and drop it in. And this is because we are downloading the Flux model and we need the Hugging Face API key to access that. Once you've set that override, go ahead and click deploy on demand. And if you click on logs, you'll be able to see the download and setup process for that. Give it a couple of minutes as it does need to download the Flux model, but after about 5 minutes, you should be good to go. And there we go. After a while, your logs should look like this. You'll see down here, localhost 9876. So if we click out and go over to connect, you'll see here 9876. Go ahead and click that. and you'll get the GRadio installation. Now, this works very similarly to how we have it on Kaiju Gen. The main difference is that on the GRadio, by the time this comes out, I will try and have a FluxDev loader on here so that you can try out DreamO on FluxDev. Now, I've seen a few comments saying that this is designed to work with Flux Schnell, so I don't know what those results are going to be like, but I'll make it available for people to try out. So just like on Kaiju Gen, we can set our images up here. Let's try and set our blonde character. And this time, we're going to try out a outfit transfer. And although we could do that on Kaiju Gen as well, I forgot to do it. We're going to do it down over here. So we're going to grab this golden dress from the example. We're going to grab our blonde character over here. I'm going to set the reference image 1 to ID. The reference image 2 is set to IP. And then we're going to have here the woman wearing a dress in a banquet hall. Leave all the other parameters the same. Click generate and you'll see it start over here. And we can see here our character wearing the example dress. Now, it could be because of the GPU that I've used. I do think that the results were slightly better on Kaiju Gen, but you can see here we have a phenomenal result, right? And we can see down here when using ID how it pulls out the face of our character. Let's just try out IP and see what we get, IP to IP, just so that we can compare the result. And we can see here on the GRadio that it's actually pulled out a little bit more of the character as the reference. We've got not just the face, but her body as well. And as a result of that, we can see that in trying to do that, it not only transferred the face, but also the sleeves with this colored shirt. So ID is probably great if you just want the face. IP seems to grab a little bit more than that. Probably more useful if you're finding that with ID, the character body shape is not transferring over properly. You might want to try IP in that case so that you can get more of the character's body as a reference component when generating the image. So the final step is, how do we get DreamO running on ComfyUI? Well, unfortunately, if you come over here to ComfyUI and go to the custom node manager and you search for DreamO, you will not find a custom node here. So this means we need to do a manual installation. Now, like the GRadio, I am showing you this on RunPod, and I had a ComfyUI template here on RunPod. If you try and deploy a pod, make sure you grab one of the 80 gig VRAM GPUs. I have found that at least with ComfyUI, I get a out of memory issue with the 48 gig. So I'm using the A100 PCIe. Head on over here to edit template. So make sure that you've set your template to the ComfyUI one. I'll put a link for that down below as well. Edit the template, and down here in the environment variables, you'll see a whole bunch of variables and parameters that you can set. If you set one to DreamO and set the override, when you deploy it, it will go ahead and automatically download all the models you need to run DreamO, including Flux. Once that's done and you've loaded into ComfyUI, you can use the workflow that I'll provide a free link for down below, and you'll get a workflow like this. Now, there are two ways to load up the DreamO models. There is DreamO load model from local, which basically looks for your locally installed models and gets that set up and running. Or there's DreamO load model. Now, this one requires your Hugging Face API key, which we have set over here. And then you need to just go in and set all of the respective models, DreamO for DreamO LoRa, CFG distill to CFG distill, positive and negative, and so on. I will show you guys how to install this manually in just a moment, but it's important to note that the only difference with the load model from local is it asks you for your Flux model path. Now, it's supposed to be installed in diffusers, which it is downloaded and set up automatically. However, when using load model from local, there is no file picker, and I've not been able to get it to find where my Flux model are saved. If anybody knows the address format that needs to go in here in a way that makes it work, please do let me know in the comment section below. As with this, you can specify a Flux dev model. Otherwise, it will download Flux Schnell here as well. Even if you have everything installed, you still need to put an API key as the node won't run without it. It's not the best set of nodes, and unfortunately, nobody else has made a DreamO set of nodes. Like Instant Character, it's very much just a basic wrapper where we just plug in this model loader, we plug in this BGRM model load and face model load into their respective nodes, And then you've got your reference 1 and reference 2 images over here. You can set the parameters here, just like the GRadio, and then you get your output over here. There really isn't a major use case for using these set of nodes over GRadio beyond the fact that you can chain the output into something else. So for example, if we look at the GRadio, both of the examples that came out, the image quality wasn't great. And let's say I want to feed that into an upscaler. I could then chain in here my upscale workflow and so on and kind of have that upscaled image done as well. Same thing with Kaiju Gen. With any of these images that I have here, I am launching an upscaler this week, and if you have an image that you like that you want to upscale or improve the quality of, there will be an upscale button here where you can select your model, set the parameters, and then it'll upscale the image for you. You can do the same thing here with ComfyUI. Now, if you are going to run this locally on your machine, on your own ComfyUI, there's a couple of things that you need to set up. First, I'm going to go through where each of these models go, and then we'll go through a couple of things that you need to keep in mind when trying to run this on consumer-grade GPUs. If we come back here to the ComfyUI, let's jump into my Jupyter Labs, and that is the file manager that RunPod uses, but everything that I'm going to show you here, you can do on Windows, Linux, and so on. Go to your ComfyUI folder and custom nodes, and this is how we install DreamO manually. Once you're at the folder that you want, open up a terminal, and whether you're on Windows, whether you're on Linux, make sure that your terminal is showing ComfyUI custom nodes, and then you're going to do git clone, and you're going to clone this ComfyUI DreamO by Jax Explorer. Again, I'll put the link down below. Drop that in and press enter, and that will download and install DreamO for you. You can see it here in my user interface. However, we're not quite done yet. Once it's done, you need to enter the folder. So we're going to cd ComfyUI-Dream capital O, and then you need to do pip install -r requirements.txt. Go ahead and press enter. That will install all of the dependencies for DreamO. Once that's done, go back to your ComfyUI manager, go to manager and restart ComfyUI. Once that's restarted, go ahead and refresh your browser. You'll then find that the nodes are working if you've used the workflow. Otherwise, you can go ahead and look for the nodes using DreamO. Most of the nodes will be there. And then you can look for these two by searching model load. You'll see it here, BGRM, and then face model load over here. And then just hook them up as I've done over here. Next, to download the models, you need to make sure that your Flux model is in your diffusers folder. You can see it here, Flux1Dev is in your diffusers folder. Now, if you've put the Hugging Face API key, it will download automatically when you try and use it. If you see here, I have the models Black Forest Labs Flux1Dev, and then in blobs is the model components. The node takes care of this for you automatically. However, what you do need to install manually are the models in the LoRa's folder. So over here in LoRa's, you'll see I've got DreamO CFG Distill, Quality LoRa Neg, Quality LoRa Pause, and DreamO Safe Tensors. Those are all available on Hugging Face. I'll put the link down in the description, and you can see here we've got all of the models here. You can just download them and put them in your LoRa's folder. And that's pretty much it. Once you've got those models in place and you've got the node installed, you should be able to use it. So if you're running on a consumer grade GPU, less than 48 gigs of VRAM, there are a couple of things that you can do to improve your memory management with DreamO. And that is when you launch ComfyUI on your machine, you can put a flag at the end of it that says -- low VRAM or med VRAM. So you could do Python main.py -- low VRAM. That will already help with memory management in ComfyUI. Things will run a little bit slower, but you will be less likely to have out-of-memory issues. The other couple of things that you can do is turn on CPU offload and set int 8, and that will use the integer 8 version of the models, bringing down your GPU requirements even more and allowing you to offload some of the processing to your CPU. And you can see here an example I ran earlier of our blonde character with the anime style image using the ID and style reference. And like we saw in the Kaiju Gen examples, the style transfer wasn't exactly the best. So that's pretty much it. I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, please do like and subscribe. And if you really want to support the channel, please do consider supporting me on Patreon or checking out Kaiju Gen. Both of those help support this channel and help me continue to make videos like these. If you have any issues with anything in the video, whether it's the workflows, the templates, or Kaijugen, please do come by the Discord and drop your issues. I do try and deal with them in a timely manner. Lately, we've been getting a lot more users over on the Discord, so it has taken me a little bit longer to get things sorted, and I'm fighting a cold, which has been giving me a really hard time, but I'm still on it, I'm on top of things, and I try to respond to things relatively promptly. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks so much, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.